So after another rather embarrassing loss on Monday Night Football, the concerns for the Chiefs keep growing, with the list seemingly longer than ever. And while there definitely are some valid concerns, there were also a few bright spots that popped up in this game and are worth honing in on. So in today's video, I'll process through the good, the bad, and the very ugly of this disappointing loss to the Jaguars. But first, how about those? Well, the Chiefs lose another game that they definitely could have won if they had made a couple more plays here or there on offense, defense, and special teams, which seems to kind of be the theme of the season so far for this Chiefs team. Last year, they were 10-0 in one-score games, and this season so far, they're the exact opposite. They are 0-3 in one-score games after losing to the Jags on Monday Night Football by 3 points. Got to tip your cap to the Jags because in the end, they got the W, and that's all that matters for them. They moved to 4-1, and the Chiefs are now 2-3 with a home game against the Detroit Lions next week. God help us all. Early on in this game, the Chiefs found themselves up by 14 points. It was looking really good, and heading into this game, the Chiefs had won 23 straight, including the playoffs, when leading by at least that much. Well, the Jags broke that streak and also snapped their 8-game losing streak against the Chiefs. And with that being said, there's a lot to go over in this game and break down after watching the film. And I actually do want to start with some positives because, believe it or not, there are some good things that I saw, and hopefully the team continues to build upon that. For starters, I've been pretty critical of the run game all year for good reason. They've been the least explosive room in all of football, but Isaiah Pacheco had his best game in quite some time. Best game of the year for sure, but one of his best maybe since before his injury. He didn't wow on the stat sheet or anything like that, but the guy broke tackles, forced some missed tackles, and had a long run of 16 yards, a season high, which is funny, but it's not. He ran 7 times for 36 yards and caught 3 passes for 20. So no, it didn't pop out on the stat sheet or anything like that, but it is something to build upon for sure. Kareem Hunt, meanwhile, had a long of 33 yards down the right sideline. That was very surprising to see because of the two, I figured that would be Isaiah Pacheco. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. Saw more success from Pacheco from under center, so hopefully they continue that a little bit more. And yes, I will admit the Jags defensive line was missing one of their best players in Trayvon Walker, but still, this was a great thing to see in the limited looks that they got. Mahomes still ended up leading the room in rushing, sadly for the 3rd time in 5 games, and I would still love to see a potential trade for a more dynamic running back, but you won't really find me that critical of the Chiefs running back room as a whole in this game. Even Brashard Smith, who didn't play much at all, still showed promise in his limited looks, catching all 3 of his targets for 32 yards. Another positive would be the Chiefs' offensive line. Josh Simmons showed some great reps against a very great pass rusher in Josh Hines-Allen. He allowed only 2 pressures all night. Kingsley had another good night as well, allowing only 1 pressure. After allowing 8 pressures in the first 2 weeks, this man has allowed only 3 over the last 3 games. So that's great news about the Chiefs O-line, especially the left side with the young guys. And it does play a big role in Mahomes facing pressure on just 25.8% of his dropbacks this season, which is currently the 4th lowest rate in the NFL. Jawan Taylor also had another pretty solid game. And yes, he technically got flagged once for illegal formation, but I believe the blame should be on Tyquan Thornton, who, off the top of my head, I can't remember, he either should have been on the line of scrimmage and wasn't, or vice versa. With that being said, though, Jawan allowed just 2 pressures over the last 2 games and is technically, if that flag indeed was supposed to be on Thornton, has not been flagged at all over those last 2 games, so bravo. Penalty or not on that one play on Tyquan Thornton, he's been freaking awesome, hauling in 3 grabs for 90 yards, though sadly, he never caught another pass after 11 minutes left in the 2nd quarter. His 3 catches were great, though, and helped play a big role in KC moving the ball down the field, especially this play here for 32 yards. He tracked the ball well, one that was, yes, underthrown because Mahomes got leveled as he threw, but it was a great heads-up play by Thornton, and hopefully it's more to come here for the speedy wideout down the road. So far through 5 weeks, Thornton has the 3rd most deep receiving yards with 186, trailing only behind 2 absolute dogs in Emeka Egbuka and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Great signs there. And then on defense, there was a couple of positive takeaways as well. Nick Bolton once again had a fantastic game. He was the highest graded player on defense, and he also had the 2nd highest coverage grade, only behind Trent McDuffie. He led the team in tackles with 12, run stops with 5, and was the one who batted the ball out of Trevor Lawrence's hand at the goal line when he tried his little diving QB sneak thing, which obviously forced the fumble. McDuffie is still clearly a top corner in the league, making clutch plays when needed. He had a couple of very very solid pass breakups. He snagged that interception on Trevor Lawrence to help keep the Chiefs in the game, and then even batted up a pass into the air that should have been picked off by either Drew Tranquill or Nick Bolton. They also did sack Trevor Lawrence 3 times, talking about the defense. Charles Omenihu had a decent game. Jalen Watson got a sack as well as Omenihu, with Chanel and Karlaftis racking up a half each. And then shout out to Matt Ariza and the punt team as a whole. I think they were the lone bright spot on special teams, and all 4 of Matt's punts landed inside the 20. One of them at least was inside the 10. So as far as special teams is concerned, that was great, but that's about where it stops. And don't you worry, I have plenty of concerns and not great takeaways from this collapse on Monday Night Football that I'll talk about next. But first, I've got another great update on the unofficial mascot of the channel, my 2-year-old pup, Casey. I know you've seen her sleeping all around my office when I film videos. She's literally right there by the stairs as we speak. And the sponsor of today's video, the Farmer's Dog, has seriously changed her life for the better. She used to pick at her kibble, never finishing it in a single sitting, and sometimes it took her up to 2 days to finish just 1 bowl of food. Well, she was obviously under eating. That concerned me, and I knew I needed to change something ASAP. I then found incredible reviews for the Farmer's Dog online, and ever since we made the switch in July, she now devours every single meal and often looks at me wanting more. The Farmer's Dog is a service that delivers gently cooked human-grade meat and veggies in simple recipes made for dogs, and the fact that the food is sent directly to our door means the Farmer's Dog can invest in better ingredients and fresher food that cannot be found in a store. They make the entire process super easy to follow as well. Taking their personalization quiz via their website only took a couple minutes, and from there, I signed up for their recommended subscription, and everything I needed arrived in her first box within a few days, and now it just renews when I need it to. All I do is take out her frozen pack of pre-portioned food the night prior and feed her some in the morning, then some at night, portioning it all out over the next couple of days. I may or may not also give her some of her new favorite treats, Snap Sticks, during my lunch as well. The evidence is there for me because Casey's energy levels are up, her tummy is full, and it just makes me happy knowing that she now loves her food every single day. Honestly, I cannot recommend the Farmer's Dog enough. So get 50% off your first box of freshly made healthy dog food by using my link. Plus, you get free shipping and 24/7 customer support. Just click the link in the description or pinned comment or scan the QR code that's up on screen. All right, let's get into some ugly aspects of this game, starting with Mahomes and his very costly 99-yard pick six that was housed by linebacker Devin Lloyd. He's a great player and actually leads the NFL now with 4 interceptions for a reason. This was at a key point in the game as well. Only 2 minutes left in the third quarter, tied 14 all with the ball at Jacksonville's 3-yard line. The offense found some momentum after back-to-back 3-and-outs, and Mahomes got completely fooled on this play. He shared after the game that it appeared as if they were blitzing the linebackers, which is what they've showed on film in the red zone, but they actually faked the blitz and backed out just as Mahomes was looking over to Juju, and Devin Lloyd made a heck of a play on the ball. A 14-point swing that took the Chiefs' win probability down by like 42% on that one play. I will say Travis Kelce was open there. I just don't think Mahomes expected the linebackers to jump the ball at all. It was a costly mistake by him. He admitted it and took accountability for that. Now, aside from that one big error on Mahomes, okay, he played a great game overall, throwing for over 300 yards. He had a passing touchdown and also ran one in on a pretty exciting read option that he took to the house himself. He had nearly 400 scrimmage yards solo, and honestly, I don't need to go into all the Chiefs' offensive stats because, yes, they should have more than the Jags. That pick six put the offense right back out onto the field. Their last offensive drive of the game, well, their last scoring drive was very surgical and methodical. They looked really good against a top defense in the NFL. That pick six was just a massive thing to overcome. But that second to last drive for the Chiefs offense, they went 12 plays, 86 yards in 6.5 minutes to put the Chiefs up by 4 with just under 2 minutes to go. And Jacksonville had 2 timeouts, but honestly, what else could you ask for end game from the Chiefs offense here? Kelce and Hollywood helped with that on that drive and were next in line with receiving yards behind only Tyquan Thornton. Kelce, by the way, had yet another solid game with a touchdown. He caught 7 passes for 61 yards and that lone score early in the game. They said it was a pick play, but it was not. Okay, the broadcast was wrong. They nitpicked the Chiefs all night long, but they were wrong on that one. You can have contact like that within 1 yard, and it was right at that yard mark, so pipe down, would ya? Anyway, Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy were next up from a production standpoint. And a quick note on Worthy, he came into the game with a bit of an ankle issue that swelled up on the plane ride to Jacksonville. He was then noticeably hobbled on one play going to the sideline, but thankfully did return. It's just worth noting that it looks like the team's current wide receiver one, until Rice returns for Week 7 against the Raiders, is dealing with an upper body injury, his shoulder, and a lower body injury in his ankle. Not ideal, but it is what it is right now. And speaking of things that aren't ideal, I do want to get into more ugly parts of this game. I just thought sharing some of the positives was worth it, especially the O-line, the run game is progressing, and really the offense as a whole that almost managed to hang 35 points on one of the best defenses in all of football. Had the pick six not happened, of course. They are at least trending in the right direction, tough loss or not, and they're going to need to continue that trend if they want a chance in beating this very high-powered Lions team this upcoming week. Anyway, let's get to some bad. The Chiefs' D-line allowed Trevor Lawrence to basically run at will, and the man looked like Lamar freaking Jackson out there on the ground. He set a career high for scrambles in a game with 6 and tied his single game high for first downs via scrambles 4, and that is not a good thing for the Chiefs defense. Their lane integrity has struggled, as has their ability to quickly get home when only rushing 4. Omar Norman-Lott didn't play in this game, to be fair, and that hindered the interior a bit, but it's next man up and not good enough at times. Derek Nottie didn't have a great showing either. They did a pretty decent job limiting the run game outside of the scrambles. I mean, Travis Etienne came into this matchup averaging nearly 100 yards a game, and he only went for 49. And that's also partially why, in my opinion, Chamari Connor played so many snaps. A bigger-bodied guy in the slot helps against the run, especially with a team that likes to utilize their tight ends in the run-blocking aspect of their offense. However, that also leaves you vulnerable to mismatches and coverage, and man oh man did Connor struggle in some key moments. He was involved with Travis Hunter's pretty epic 44-yard leaping grab down the field, and on the night he allowed 3 receptions on 3 targets for 62 yards and also drew 2 flags, I think 3 actually, but one was declined at the end of the game. One of those flags that didn't get declined was on the Jags' final drive, so 2 technically, 1 accepted, and it was that DPI in coverage on Brian Thomas Jr. to help set the Jags up at the 1-yard line. The thing is, I'm not even sure I can blame Chamari Connor anymore. We have to blame the coaching staff. How in the world can you come out of a timeout on the final drive knowing the Jags are going to be throwing the ball and line up a safety on the team's wide receiver 1 in Brian Thomas Jr.? That is coaching malpractice and designed to fail. He couldn't get his head around, and the flag was an obvious one in the end zone. Meanwhile, Noel Williams played just 4 defensive snaps. That is a failure on the coaching staff, plain and simple, for having him out there at that point in time. Jalen Watson also had a rough go on some plays. He gave up 3 receptions on 3 targets as well, with 2 penalties of his own. His stats actually almost mirrored Chamari Connor's exactly. One of those flags, by the way, for Watson was on that 3rd and 15 earlier on in the game, where he basically slipped and fell over and knocked Brian Thomas Jr., I believe it was, to the ground. That drew the DPI, extended the drive, and wound up in a Jags touchdown pass to Parker Washington. 2 of the receptions that Jalen Watson allowed were actually on back-to-back plays on the final drive. One to Brian Thomas Jr. for 33 yards, and then one to De'Ami Brown for 13 more. He was so close on swiping that 33-yarder away from BTJ, but sometimes you fall short and players make plays, and that is what happened there on 3rd and 7. Then the final play of that Jags drive was pretty crazy. Trevor Lawrence, he got stepped on by his own lineman, fell over not once, but twice, yet still managed somehow to jump up and run into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown. It was honestly a hilariously sad and tragic play all around. Amenahue was double-teamed and ended up on the ground. Drew Tranquil would have made a diving tackle on Trevor Lawrence, but bounced off of Jerry Tillery, who missed the tackle altogether. And then Chris Jones was just standing there, popcorn in hand, watching the whole thing go down. To add insult to injury, Chamari Connor got flagged for defensive holding on that play anyway. So even if Lawrence gets tackled, that flag would have stopped the clock and I think moved them half the distance closer to the goal. This game was a lack of overall execution on a few crucial plays on every phase of the ball: offense, defense, and special teams. And since I was just talking about back-to-back flags on Chamari Connor on the final drive, this was a big one to me. The Chiefs were flagged a whopping 13 times for 109 yards. They are now one of the most flagged teams in all of football. They have the second worst penalty differential as well. That is not sustainable and has definitely played a role in the Chiefs' inability to get the job done in some of these games. I'm not blaming officiating. I'm blaming the Chiefs' overall lack of discipline and some of these drives being stalled out or harder to overcome or easier for the opponents to get points on the board because of these stupid flags. The special teams penalties for the Chiefs were absolutely brutal. They had 4 on kickoffs alone in the second half. A double team block on Nico Remigio. Jack Cochran was flagged twice for holding, with one of them negating a 63-yard return by Brashard Smith. Then Harrison Butker, who did thankfully make all of his extra points in this game, he kicked the ball out of bounds on the final kickoff, which had the Jags offense starting out at their own 40-yard line. One costly mistake after another. It was absolutely maddening to say the least. So yeah, Mahomes in that pick six, brutal. The defense not picking off that batted up pass earlier in the game, unfortunate. The coaching staff setting Chamari Connor up to fail, malpractice. The D-line not maintaining lane integrity, frustrating. And then, of course, the defense fell short end game, allowing the Jags to put up a field goal and touchdown on their last 2 drives. That obviously didn't help, especially the final drive where it was literally win the game or go home with yet another L. They let Trevor Lawrence lead a 7-play, 60-yard touchdown drive in just a minute and 22 seconds. And sure, the Chiefs had 23 seconds and a couple of timeouts there at the end of the game, but another hold on Jack Cochran on the kickoff resulted in the offense having to start out with the ball on their own 17 rather than the 34. You can't win games like that, and even in spite of that, they still almost did. Almost obviously isn't good enough, and the Chiefs didn't want to win this game. Not compared to the Jags. They really wanted it and took advantage of the Chiefs' mistakes. Don't get me wrong, the Jags made costly mistakes of their own, but they ended up finding a way in the end to get it done, and that's hats off to them for the W. Trevor Lawrence had his ups and downs for sure, but he made plays when it mattered most. He had several key scrambles for first downs, a nice touchdown throw to Parker Washington, that perfect throw to Brian Thomas Jr. right side on the final drive, along with another one immediately after to De'Ami Brown. And I'm not going to sit here and cry about the refs, okay? They were far from perfect on both sides of the ball. It didn't help that the broadcast, Buck, Aikman were whining and crying about every single call that either did or didn't go the Chiefs' way. That was weird to me, but the thing is, officiating is always inconsistent. I've said that from day one. It is what it is. The truth of the matter is this. The Chiefs had opportunities to win and didn't, and were the more undisciplined team of the two by far. And because of that, they are now 2-3, and if they aren't careful here this week against the Lions, they could fall to 2-4 before Rice comes back week 7, and from there, in order to make the playoffs, they can't afford to really lose many more games after that, maybe a couple. The good news is the Chargers are sputtering. Injuries are playing a big role with that after they've lost their last 2. The Raiders are not really a good football team at all, and the Broncos seem to still be searching for their identity. They did have a nice comeback win over the Eagles last weekend for what that's worth, but all that to say the division itself isn't even out of reach here. Each week, though, becomes increasingly important and borderline crucial. Don't forget that the Chiefs started out 2-3 in 2021 as well, and still made the AFC Championship, okay? So it's not doom and gloom. No need to hit the panic button yet. It's not over. And obviously, comparing now to 2021, it's 2 different teams. Yes, we know that. But as long as they have Patrick Mahomes and the O-line continues to gel, things are trending in the right direction for the offense, and they're going to need Rice back, and that's going to take them to a new level, and they're possibly going to need to carry this defense at times. But hey, the defense has carried the Chiefs' offense the last couple of seasons in large stretches of the season, so it might be time for the offense to help repay the favor. But hey, make sure to let me know your biggest concerns and main takeaways, good or bad, from this pretty piss-poor performance against the Jags on Monday Night Football. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?